Peter knew that Jesus was not just another prophet. He knew that Jesus was not John the Baptist. Peter knew that Jesus was the Christ, the Messiah, God's anointed one. Peter understood that Jesus, as the Messiah, had to suffer and thus reconcile humankind with God. He knew all of that intellectually, and yet he was not ready to make that long journey from knowing what is true and right to doing what is true and right. In the 8th chapter of Mark's Gospel, right after professing his faith in Jesus as the Christ, Peter takes Jesus aside and offers his unsolicited advice. Do we really must go to Jerusalem right this very moment, knowing how dangerous it is? Can we postpone it for a year or two, and for now focus instead on continuing your beautiful ministry as it is? True, we all know it needs to be done, but perhaps not right away. You see, there is a big difference between knowing or believing and doing or acting upon your knowledge of faith. Peter is a great example of such a distinction between knowing and doing. In the very same gospel paragraph, he is praised for recognizing Jesus as the Messiah, and barely 2 sentences later he is reprimanded for talking the talk but not willing to walk the walk. His resistance to act upon what he believes to be true earns Peter one of the harshest responses to ever come out of Jesus' lips: "Get behind me, Satan." 23 years ago, just a few days after the tragedy of September 11th, Poland became the very first NATO country to declare its readiness to assist the United States in any way necessary. Based on its commitment to the alliance and its fundamental rule that an attack on one member is an attack on the entire alliance, Poland and the United Kingdom sent their own troops to Iraq and Afghanistan to fight side by side with the US forces. It was not a popular move. It was not a politically expedient decision, but it was the right thing to do, based on our shared belief that we are stronger together. Unfortunately, walking the walk is not all that common, not only among the politicians, but also among us, regular people. It is much easier to play it safe, to be cautious, and to play the Peter card while calculating all the pros and cons of what we know that should be done. Many of my seminary friends and clergy colleagues from my Roman Catholic years believe that ordaining women is the right thing to do. Most of them know that there are no good theological reasons whatsoever for restricting the holy orders to men only. Intellectually speaking, most of them understand that refusal to ordain well-qualified women is a grave injustice. And yet, they are very skillful at coming up with countless excuses as to why it's not the right time, why it's not prudent to break with an ancient tradition, why we must wait for a more opportune time. Ever since I moved to Texas 15 months ago, I have met many evangelical Christians. They are often people of deep personal faith. They know their Bibles better than most Catholic bishops, and they are usually kind and compassionate people. What took me by surprise is the fact that most of them are very accepting of the LGBTQ individuals when they speak in private. But if you ask them whether they would attend a same-sex marriage ceremony of their coworker or their neighbor's daughter, more often than not, they politely excuse themselves and explain that even though they wish the couple all the love and happiness in the world, they simply cannot afford to lose standing in their beloved Baptist or Assembly of God congregation. Talking the talk is easy. Walking the walk is where our true colors show. Doing what we know is true and just requires commitment and readiness for sacrifice. And it's okay if it takes us more than one attempt. It is okay if our first knee-jerk reaction is like that of Peter, as long as we are open and courageous to make that journey from knowing to doing eventually. Because we don't want to stand in the way of Jesus doing what needs to be done. Amen. It's so wonderful to be spending these few minutes with you every week. Thank you for journeying with me. If you enjoyed this short reflection, please click on the like symbol and make sure that you subscribe to my channel. Thank you again, and God bless you always.